Hey guys, so today we are going to be painting galaxies in deep space. So not like my last tutorial where I kind of did a galaxy from a point of view of a planet or Earth, whatever you want to call it. We're going to explore the deep nebulas and all these cloudy galaxy shapes, getting really high contrast on here and achieving some vibrancy with our acrylic paint today. So I hope you guys enjoy. So this is the palette we're working with. I got some titanium white, cadmium yellow, medium hue, raw sienna, magenta, phthalo blue, phthalo green, and Mars black. And you can see my paints over there. I usually use Liquitex Basics acrylics. All right, so we're starting off with a 16 by 20 inch canvas here, and I gessoed it up. It was exactly the same painting underneath it from when I taught it at my workshop. And I'm gonna show you guys how to mix some colors before we get started on this canvas. So I am going to be using this bigger mop brush here. This is the 1/2 inch mop brush. I want to be filling the canvas up as much as possible because we want it all to be covered. So I'm going to use this bigger one. I'm going to get it a little wet and then dry it off. All right. So I'm gonna go over to my palette. We're gonna start with our light color. We're gonna get that really bright yellow. So I'm gonna get some white. I'm gonna mix a little pile of color. That way I know what color I'm gonna get. And I just grabbed some of that cad yellow. And then I'm also gonna grab some of this raw sienna, just a little bit. I'm gonna mix it up. I wanna make a pretty decent sized pile of color. I don't wanna run out of it. Some artists use a palette to mix their colors, and that's fine. I like to just use my brush, Bob Ross style. All right, I kind of want it just a tinge more vivid. There we go. Alrighty, so I'm gonna take this back up to the canvas. All right, so I'm gonna start outlining kind of the cloudy shapes that I wanna get here. And I'm just gonna be doing these very like wiggly brush strokes. It's pretty abstract. I'm gonna try to make it like I did before, like it's going around here. But this is just getting an idea where you want them to be, where you want all your cloud shapes. And kind of go like that. And it's not gonna be exactly like the one I had before, which is okay. Kind of wanna just roll with what's coming off on your canvas. I paint pretty intuitively. I don't like to get stuck too much in the details, especially not at the beginning. So at the beginning, it's gonna look a little rough. And then we'll work out all our kinks later. Which is really how I've always enjoyed painting. I used to be too much of a perfectionist. And Bob Ross kind of helped me not be. You just kind of go with it. Let the painting talk to you a little bit. Have an idea, of course, of what you want to do. So I got something like that. It's carrying your eye around. And you'll add a few, maybe like a little guy here, or, well, that's kind of cool how that curls around. I kind of want this to carry up a little. And this is just about composition, which is really the most important part. Make exciting shapes. So another thing that I tell my students oftentimes is when you're creating galaxy and creating like these cloud shapes, you want to make sure that they're not very clean looking or uniform looking. Like if I were to draw a line to outline these shapes, it would be like all sorts of bumps and stuff like that. Very bumpy, very rough textured. You want it to look rough. And at the same time, you want to create like different shapes. So this is one shape. This is kind of like the big guy. This will be the focal point here. And then we have some littler ones, but it's never just like, oh, I'm gonna put a little yellow dot here, a little yellow dot there, all over the place. You kind of want it to have some sort of order in there. All right, So now all I'm going to do is add a little bit more of the raw sienna, a little bit more yellow. We're going to try to make it more vivid. And we're also going to add a tiny, tiny, tiny little bit of magenta. So we're going to go ahead and go to the canvas with this color. So we want our lightest points to be facing the middle here. So all of this edge, these are going to be our light parts of our galaxy. So I'm going to use a slightly darker color and put it underneath here and above over here. And I'm going to stick with these kind of jittery, crisscross, stamping brush strokes. I'm going right up underneath. And I am going over some of that yellow too, that lighter yellow. Not all of it, but you can see even with this darker color, I'm still doing those like really jagged textury brush strokes. And all I'm gonna do now is I'm just gonna continue to add more of my cad yellow and more of my magenta to make an even brighter orange to put right up underneath this. I also use this fine mist sprayer. This is going to help the acrylic to stay wet while I'm going around. I spray very far away, just like one little mist. And I'm going to continue. I think that's about it for our orange cloudy galaxy shapes. So I cleaned my brush off really, really good. You gotta really make sure to use the edges of your cup, and then I dried it off. So we're gonna mix this color right here. And what I did is I took a little bit of Phthalo Blue, a little bit of Phthalo Green, mixed it up, trying to make kind of like a teal turquoise. And then I'm gonna add a little bit of white. And then also a tiny little bit of black. There's a little bit too much black. I'm gonna add a little bit more of my blue and green. There we go. It's a very subtle color. And we're just mapping these shapes out. So we're gonna go to the canvas with this. Okay, so I'm going to use this color in spots that are kind of close to the galaxy here. That way there is a little bit of a blending that goes on there. So I'm going to do the same things where I'm doing like these crisscross shapes. And these are going to be like bulkier shapes. They're not going to be as spindly as our clouds were here. And I'm going to go as close as I can to some of these points on our cloudy galaxy. But again, I'm making it look like a really weird shape. It's not anything that's like a circle or like nice clean edges. And if you make it too big, when we go to add our dark colors, you can always clean it up a little bit, so it's no big deal. So clean and dry brush, we're going to mix up a lavender color. So I'm going to use Phthalo Blue. I'm going to start a pile over here. And I'm going to grab just a little bit of magenta. Mix it up. And we're going to go back to some white. I'm just going to scoop up the rest right there. Mix it. So pretty. I might add just a little bit more magenta. Alright, so I don't have to add too much of this color because we got a lot of this filled and we want to have some dark color left so we have really high contrast. Alright, we're ready for our dark colors. Alright, before we move on to colors with black, I'm going to go ahead and take some blue. Set it down right here, Phthalo Blue. and a tiny little bit of magenta, just to give it a little bit of a purple tint. Maybe a little bit more. I'm gonna have a decent amount of this color. So yeah, you can see it's pretty dark in comparison to these colors, and we're just gonna use it kind of as a buffer space in between our light, cloudy blue structures and our dark, dark, deep space sky. All right, so again, I'm just gonna be putting this kind of right up next to a lot of these blue shapes that we already got here. And this is what I said, when you can start to kind of refine your shapes if you want to. So this happens, paper towel, wipe it up. And sometimes you can get the paper towel a little bit wet. A little bit wet, not dripping. And then just wipe it. Again, we're gonna be doing a second coat on this. So we'll cover up any of that green that might have happened right there. This color we put on, we're gonna add some black to it, and we're gonna put our final dark sky. All right, so I don't really like to use just pure black or pure white on a painting too often. I like to mix it just slightly. But you can see, super duper dark, but it's not completely black. And maybe I'll try to make some smaller shapes up in here. Or spindles or tentacles, I think the people in my class called it. Little cloud tentacles. So as you can see, everything is pretty much in place. The composition is there. So all we have to do is add details and get maybe some of those like spindly cloud shapes that come out of this, get some brighter colors, get some more orange, get some really white. But first, we have to splatter some stars on here. All right, so we're gonna be using this big scruffy brush now, or you can use an old toothbrush. And we're gonna get some white ready to splatter some stars. So what you gotta do is you gotta get a little bit of white. You don't wanna use a lot of paint. Then find an empty spot. And I'm gonna mix some water with it. And a lot of times I just use my fine mist sprayer. Give it a couple sprays. You can also dip your brush in some water, but you definitely need fresh paint water. So I'm just gonna swirl it up. There you go. So you wanna start to see these bubbles forming. Might get just a little bit more. There we go. So that's the consistency that you want. You want it to be kind of like a stain texture, but you can see some bubbles when you're swirling that brush. All right, so we got this at a kind of a different angle, but I want to avoid hitting my painting, so I'm going to set this down on a table and splatter some stars on this way. So you take your brush that's loaded up with your white paint mixture, and you're gonna go like this. Like that. Not like that. Like this. Alright, and so mine are a little bit fine. You can barely see them, so I'm gonna add just a little bit more water. There we go. Let's see what we can get. And also you can flip it this way, you get bigger stars going like that. There we go. I don't just stick in one spot. Travel around. Here. I'm doing some down here. But you don't have to do too much this time. This is just the bottom layer. We're gonna still add all of our details over this, and then we'll put another layer of stars on top of it. All right, so I got this blow dried after I sprayed those stars on there, and we're gonna start to use our smaller brushes to get some more detailed cloud-like shapes up in our yellow-orange cloud galaxy area. So I got this scraggly guy. The scraggly guy is gonna make those little detail cloud shapes. And then we have our smaller mop brush, and this one is gonna be to soften our brush strokes. So you have to do it when your paint is still wet, so I'm gonna keep these kind of going in tandem. So I got an even lighter yellow than we had originally, and I'm just gonna kind of squiggle in some more cloudy shapes. Maybe add some like tentacle-y things. Maybe add a little bit more detail inside the darker areas too. So I cleaned this scruffy guy off again, and I'm gonna start working into some of the darker colors here. Kind of wanted to have a little bit more vivid of a honey gold color. So I'll add some of these dark spots here. Making like really tiny squiggles. So when I mixed up this new color here, I just used the cad yellow, a little bit of raw sienna, tiny, tiny, tiny dot of magenta, and then all you get is a vivid color. Nothing to dull it down. Right? Finger painting. All right, now I'm going in with the lavendery color. This time I might use this mop brush. There we go. Oh yeah. So I'm going to use this mop brush, the little one, for these lavendery clouds. I want them to be softer. here. Sometimes if I get a little bit too much than I want, I'll clean my brush off really good, dry it off. That way I just have a dry brush. I kind of pat at it. I'm kind of spinning my brush a little bit too. And just that little bit. Just need a little bit. Okay. Okay, now another thing that we can do is to add back some of our really dark color. And what that's gonna do is it's gonna help you to seal in these spots on the bottom here. So when we're adding this, I'm gonna be doing kind of like a stamping technique and a little bit of that jitter, pretty close to what we've been doing. But I'm gonna clip some of this in. I'm gonna make these just a little bit smaller, which you can do. All right, same brush. I'm just gonna go right up and start to stamp this in. And clean up some of these spots. Maybe I wanna make some of these areas a little bit bigger with that dark color. And this is your chance to do that. It's also super important to take a step back from your painting. That way you can see it how other people would be looking at it. All right, we're gonna get in really close here and make those bright, shiny stars. So I'm gonna take out my teeny tiny brush and I'm just gonna use white paint for now. And I kind of wanna, let's see, let's put one right here. So when I do this, I hold my brush really close. I use my pinky to stabilize my hand. And I'm gonna make an up and down line, go across. So the up and down one's gonna be longer than the across one. Then I'm gonna make an X. And the X is gonna be even smaller. As best you can. And just make them wherever you like. Make different size ones. Maybe I can have like just one of these diamond shaped ones down here. You can also add some more just dotted stars. I'm gonna use the big guy. But you can see I don't have a lot of paint. Just a little bit. So I get a little bit on my brush and then stamp it out. I'm just gonna use the corner. And it adds a nice finishing touch. Gives the galaxy kind of a crunchy texture. and I am just gonna sign it. I usually do it in the bottom right corner, but you guys can put it wherever you want. Some artists like to hide it in their paintings. I like to make mine just subtle, but off to the side. And there you have it. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please subscribe to my channel to see more videos like this, and happy painting!